Welcome to the JCPS MTSS training on the Feedback via Engagement Toolkit with a focus on the high yield practice questioning. I am Melissa Logston, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Elementary Zone 3.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hagan, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with the Middle School Zone.
Please take a moment to type the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will allow you access to all the links for the activities offered throughout the presentation. Here you will see the 6 components that make up the MTSS department or multi-tiered systems of support. MTSS focuses on overall school improvement by aligning resources and support for both teachers and students. We provide multiple levels of support for learners that address academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs and produce professional development that is aligned with schools and the district as a whole. Let me start by showing you the components of our department, multi-tiered systems of support, known as MTSS. This concept map shows a visual of the departments within MTSS. The MTSS Academic Department provides teachers with Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention and academic support. The department is headed by Donna Lawson. The MTSS Behavior Department, led by Sandra Hensel, supports schools in implementing school-wide behavior systems and frameworks, including PBIS and restorative practices. The goal of our department, the MTSS Engagement Department, is to increase student achievement by equipping teachers with high-yield pedagogical practices to maximize student engagement. Both the MTSS Engagement Department is led by Dr. Naomi Brahim. The point of contact for each department is located in the concept map. Here are the 6 MTSS toolkits. By clicking the toolkit image, you will access the MTSS department webpage and each toolkit. Feedback is information provided by an agent about aspects of one's performance or understanding. Teaching and learning can be powerful when teachers seek, or at least are open, to feedback from students. A teacher demonstrates success of this high-yield instructional practice by frequently engaging students through higher order questions to seek authentic feedback. Teachers have opportunities for feedback when they ask effective questions that are interesting, authentically connected to students' lives, and easy enough to predict high rates of student success. Today, we will analyze the components of quality questions in order for you to develop authentic and relevant questions into your lessons. According to John Hattie, teachers ask how many questions a day, which makes how many questions a year. Take a moment to answer this. Teachers ask 400 questions a day, which is 70,000 questions a year. But are we asking the right kinds of questions? There are several components to a quality question. Questions should provide clarification, examine viewpoints, provide reason and evidence, and check for assumptions. You can use Bloom's taxonomy to help you develop questions from lower level thinking to higher order thinking. There are 6 levels of Bloom's. Let's begin with the first level, remembering. This level is recalling information. The next level is understanding, which is explaining ideas or concepts. Applying is the third level and is using information in another familiar situation. All three of these levels are lower level thinking. The fourth level is analyzing. Analyzing is breaking information into parts to explore understandings and relationships. The next level is evaluating, which is justifying a decision or course of action. The last level is creating. Creating is generating new ideas, products, or ways of viewing things. Analyzing, evaluating, and creating are all higher order thinking.
Let's shift our thinking from Bloom's taxonomy to Webb's DOK levels. Depth of knowledge, or DOK, designate the depth and extent students must demonstrate and communicate their learning in a given teaching and learning experience. It is important to note that each DOK level serves a purpose in the scope and sequence of teaching and learning. Within DOK 1, students are answering the question, what is the knowledge? Here we can see that the ceiling of assessment for students is based on factual and foundational knowledge. Through DOK 1 questioning, students are developing and demonstrating foundational knowledge, as well as acquiring and processing data, facts, information, and procedures. There is typically one correct answer, outcome, result, or solution. As we move into DOK 2, you can see the ceiling of assessment raises slightly. These types of questions require students to determine how they will use their conceptual and procedural understanding. Teachers probe students to demonstrate and communicate their knowledge correctly and clearly. The focus is on the use of DOK 1 knowledge to explain specific answers, outcomes, reasons, results, and/or solutions. Like DOK 2, DOK 3 questions ask students to communicate their knowledge. However, they also ask students to apply a variety of strategies to attain and explain their answers using evidentiary support. Teachers emphasize the use of complex reasoning for students to defend or refute their claims, decisions, or hypotheses. Within DOK 3, students are applying their knowledge from DOK 1 to explain and justify their reasoning or results. DOK 4 is where students are encouraged to transfer, use, and share what they have learned in different contexts, new situations, or to address, explain, and respond to a real-world scenario or situation. This is where teaching goes across the curriculum and beyond the classroom. Teachers encourage students to make real-world connections. Within DOK 4, students engage in a heightened productive struggle, which is why it is important that they have a strong foundation found in DOK 1 and 2. Now that we have explored the 4 levels of Webb's depth of knowledge, let's take a moment to pause and think about how all this information can be applied. Think about an upcoming unit of study. Utilizing the chart on the next slide, pre-plan questions at the different DOK levels. Consider what students have to know, how they will use what they know, what they could do with what they know, and what else can be done with all this knowledge. This compiled depth of knowledge chart provides examples of the correlation between the student-centered learning expectations and the qualities of a good question at each level. Some questions to ask yourself as you review this resource are: what is the goal of the learning experience? And what is the DOK level of the learning expectation within the standard? Feel free to pause this video as you begin to plan your next unit of study. This graphic shows the relationship between Bloom's and the DOK levels. As you can see, the lower rungs of the Bloom's ladder, remembering and understanding, create the DOK 1 level of recall and reproduction. DOK 2 is comprised of the application questions, while DOK 3 is more analytical. The top two portions of the pyramid for Bloom's is when teachers are asking students to evaluate and create something, which falls into the DOK 4 level because it extends the thinking of students to go beyond the classroom and make relevant connections. Take a moment to think about the questions you currently ask on a regular basis. How would you grade yourself? How could your questions be improved? Do you notice a correlation between the questions you ask and the level of engagement or quality of conversation among students? Benjamin Bloom reminds us, while questions which elicit lower level thinking are an important part of teaching, they are useless unless they build toward questions which help kids develop higher order thinking skills. When integrating questions into lessons, there are several things to consider. Ensuring your questions incorporate student responses, ideas, languages, and experiences will allow for multiple open dialogue opportunities for students. ECE students should have pre-planned questions to allow for multiple means of engagement through a lesson. These questions can be based on the student's performance in order to move their learning forward based on their specific learning needs. For project-based learning opportunities, it is important to consider what types of responses you will receive from students. Teachers should consider which types of questions will spark more thoughtful and engaging responses that will lead to connections beyond the classroom. Here we have provided you with a PLC planning tool to help with the implementation of the high-yield practice of questioning. Here is a list of resources to assist you in developing higher level DOK questions within your content area. Thank you for joining us to learn more about the high-yield practice questioning. For more information about the MTSS Toolkits and other high-yield practices, please visit our website.